Hi, Reddy. Welcome to week 10. As you all know by now, Joe Biden is our president-elect. It's very exciting to have this election over with. And for those of you who were with me on Wednesday morning when I thought the race was over and it wasn't, thank you very much for being patient with me and putting up with my craziness. So one of the things that Joe Biden said this week after the election was called was that it's time now for us to unite and heal. So I really hope our country can start doing this, that we can work on uniting and healing. And I hope that the conversations we might have in our class about race might help us unite and heal. We had a really great class last week about talking about how comfortable or not we are talking about race. And a lot of us had a lot of concerns, a lot of fears, a lot of apprehension, and also a really strong feeling that we need to talk about race. So I hope we can do this. I hope we can do it well. So what we're going to be talking about this week and what you're going to be writing an essay on for the next 2 weeks is how do we define race? Okay, so we started talking about that already last week. We read Fuentes, and usually when we think of race, we think of skin color, but we read Fuentes, sorry about that, and we know race, not skin color. We know race, not biology. There's no biological basis to race. So then what is it? And I'm going to say that race is created through social systems. And chiefly, most importantly, race is created through social systems that uphold segregation. So segregation has been so important in U.S. history in the last 150 years. Since the end of slavery, the way we've essentially kept racial barriers in place is through a system of segregation. That system is carried out in a bunch of ways. One way is through our schools. One way is through our neighborhoods and our housing system. And another way is through our criminal justice system. So what we're doing this week is we're looking at readings or we have videos that talk about each one of those things. So we have a video on the history of redlining, which is how we're going to talk about zip codes and housing and how it came to be that our neighborhoods are so segregated. You have a John Oliver video on school segregation. And I might also share a website with you that actually breaks down how segregated our schools are. And you have uncomfortable conversations with a black man talking with police. Emmanuel Akko, I don't know how to say his name, but I think he's a football player. Some of you who are sports fans can tell me how to pronounce his name. He's talking with police about criminal justice. So we're going to look at each one of these things just a little bit, just a tiny little peek, because really we could spend an entire semester talking on these things, but we'll get a little peek into that. Then we're also going to read a Bell Hooks essay. By the way, her name is spelled with lowercase letters on purpose. If you look it up, you can look up why, on white poverty. Now, she's an African-American scholar, and in writing this, she's really looking at some of the bigger reasons why we're segregated and how keeping us segregated helps people with money and influence really stay in power. So make sure that you read the Bell Hooks essay on white poverty as well, and do that stuff before class so that when you come to class, you've looked at all this stuff and started to process it. Okay, so that's our starting place. So another reading that you have this week is the Wikipedia entry on racial segregation in the United States. Now, Wikipedia, I think, is a really good source for starting to learn about something. You shouldn't cite it in your essays because I think Wikipedia is a good source, and I'll tell you why in just a minute, but other teachers don't, and it's really not a good source to use in an academic paper. But I wanted to run through this really quickly. It is kind of long, right? If we scroll all the way down, there's a lot here in this. And so what I want you to do to read this, to take this on, is take a look at first skim it, right? Think about what you already know about segregation and skim the reading. And the reason why I want you to do this reading is because I want you to have a sense of like the facts here, the history. As we're learning how to think about this topic, I want you to share your opinion. I want you to share your experience, but I also really want us all to get a better understanding of the facts of our history in the United States and why it's so important, and also how recent a lot of this is. This is not like long ago back in the day. This is fairly recent stuff. So what I want you to do is skim through this reading and then choose a couple of parts that you're going to go back and really focus on so that you're learning it for yourself, so that you get a better understanding of segregation and how it worked in the United States, and so that you can use it in our writing. So there is a lot here, but make sure you focus on like the headings and that you feel like you understand. Okay, what was Jim Crow? What was the Jim Crow era? When did it happen? What was the New Deal? What is hypersegregation? Right? There's a lot here. And then just choose a couple that you're really going to focus on and read closely. Okay, so that's the Wikipedia article. And then the last thing that I want to talk about is your discussion board posts. So now imagine that you're having a quiz on the Fuentes reading The Myth of Race. Remember last week I told you to read it and annotate it and really take your time with it because you were going to use your annotations this week. So this week what you are going to do is you are going to use your annotations to write a question that might be in an open book quiz on Fuentes. Now, open book, right? So it's not about like memorizing vocabulary or facts or whatever for The Myth of Race. It's about writing questions that would help somebody understand and think about the reading, not just like be able to memorize what's in it, but really think about it. So for example, a question might be something like, Fuentes writes about governmentally crafted definitions of race as well as broadly accepted social definitions, and that's on page 640. That's how you cite it with MLA. The question might be, what does he mean by those two definitions of race? So you're going to spend some time working on your annotations and thinking about questions that you could ask about Fuentes. You're going to share one in a discussion board post, and you're going to answer one person's question. And then I'm going to take some of those questions. We're going to put them together into a quiz you're going to have next week. Woohoo! Yay! Reading quiz! And then you're going to do another discussion board post to share a video. Now, I've been talking with you about videos for a little while, and the reason why I want to do videos is I'd like you to feel like more personally connected with the class and with each other. And one way that could happen is by just being more visual instead of just typing everything. So you can either create a video, which is really easy if you use the YouTube app. You do not have to be in the video. You can create a video on your phone and then just upload it to YouTube and share a link. Keep in mind the videos should probably be pretty short. Or you can just choose a video that's already out there and explain in some detail why you chose that video, what you think that video is saying. So, for example, one of the videos that I chose for this week was that uncomfortable conversations with a black man. And I chose that because, to me, like, that's what we need to be doing right now in our culture. We need to be having those uncomfortable conversations where people try to be honest with each other and try to listen to each other and try to be ready to hear with an open heart and an open mind. So that was why I chose that video, and I hope that it's useful to us. So last thing about this week is I'm going to be finishing up grading. I've graded most of your papers. Please make sure you take a look. For some folks, I'm saying please rewrite your essay. And if I say that and I ask you to make an appointment, please do. Please make sure you follow up with me. I'm also going to have some extra just open office hours this week if you want to drop in to talk about your essay too and how to rewrite it. So have a great week, guys. I look forward to seeing you in class. I look forward to your questions and your videos. And have a wonderful week.